Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the sports betting show hosted by a real statistics professor. This is Thursday, March 20th, 2025, day one of the March Madness. Right? Day three, kind of, I guess, but it's really day one for
day one.
Yeah, for the fact that this should be a national holiday. Folks, hopefully you are able to have the whole day off and watch, or hopefully you live in the Eastern time zone. I know at least living in the Eastern time zone, if you have to work, you kind of can finish the day and not miss too much. Obviously, it's a fun time for everybody. We're going to cover two games here today up from our usual one. So you see on the top it says pick, but we're going to actually give you picks. We're going to give you two. We covered a ton of things already, of course, on the bracket show. And we're going to kind of repeat some of the same things. But because of that, we're going to kind of go through this maybe a little faster because we don't want to say too many of the same things. But some quick reminders, of course, player-based model, injuries, et cetera. Right? We've been talking a lot about that here if you've been with us this week and how important those can be. And the model does account for that to the best of its abilities. The average grade 100, higher is more points. So offense would be higher, defense would be lower. And of course, folks, we don't know what's going to happen. Nobody does, unfortunately. The idea is that if we bet the right price at the right number, that when we win, we're going to win more. When we win, then when we lose. That mostly applies more to money lines, but the same idea can apply to spreads with regards to winning more of the time, right, by getting a better number. So it's the same concept, right? Making sure, we're not just betting the number and the price. We're betting the team and the number and the price, but you can't ignore that. And that's how we generate value. And I think we're gonna have some really good discussion about that here, especially in our first game when we get to it. But before that, just some reminder, you can get all of the picks from all of our other handicappers, all the projections, all the blah, 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 at an all new low price of $29.99. I don't know. I'm just terrible at sales and I hate it. It's like the worst part of this, honestly, every day. But I feel like I should put it here because this is how I buy food. I don't know.
When you're printing money like you are with the NHL, it is like people got to get in to get it. It is so it's worth. You'll make the $30 you paid for the month back so quick with the way hockey's going right now.
Yeah, and your first month can be only half. It can be half off. It can be only $15 if you sign up at the link in the show description. So, hockey's been great to us. I don't know. I feel like we've been saying that a lot to people. So I don't know. If you're new here, this is the first time you're hearing it. Hockey's been great to us. If you've been hearing it, well, you already know hockey's been great to us. And so the drum keeps on. The beat keeps on, or whatever. VCU BYU. I think this is going to be a great game to talk about value. And we talked about this game, of course, on the bracket right now. We talked about all these games. Here in the first round, the model has BYU as the slightly better team, winning by an average of 2.5. We talked about this a little bit. Is there some sort of added home court edge that BYU might get? Not overly so much about the distance that they travel, which isn't bad, but more comparatively the distance that VCU is traveling. And the fact that, of course, you are now in the mountains in Denver and BYU is used to that. So that's kind of one thing to keep an eye on here. And that's one of the reasons why I made the comment during the show that I think this is kind of a high variance game, because I could see a situation where those legs for BYU kind of, outlast VCU. But BYU's also been a high variance team themselves in general. So a lot of things can happen. It should make for a fun game. Jake, where are we going with our official pick for this game?
Look, we're taking VCU plus the points. As you can see, these teams are not like the true reflection of each other. Like right here, you've got, when you look at the mirror and the words are backwards. It's almost that.
It's like, it's one of those where it's not quite the same, but it's close enough. You can figure it out.
Like you've got about 40 spots different there on offense and about 40 spots different on defense, going either way, and then 1 point different in the overall. Like these teams are almost equal and do it in completely different ways. I think the legs thing would be more of a factor, at least in my mind, if VCU didn't play slow. VCU wants to slow that game down, so I don't think that's as much of a factor. They're deep, and they have 4 guys averaging double digits. And their best players are guards, which I think is such an underrated thing that doesn't get talked about as much as you go through, especially as you get closer to the NBA, your best guys being guards. The farther you get away from the NBA is much more important. like at the high school level, you want your best player with the ball in his hand at all times, and that means bringing the ball up the court. It doesn't matter if he's 7 foot. And then,
which goes back to what you've said previously. Sometimes about some of the big guys in college, it's sometimes it's easier to defend them because if the guards aren't that great and you pressure them and they can't get the ball to the big guy, what are you going to do? And that's why I think you're saying you want the guy to have the ball in his hands from the start of the possession because then you know he has it versus can we work it to him is sometimes a challenge. Like you said, the further you get from the NBA, obviously the NBA not a challenge to get the ball to anybody. You want those guys are so insanely good.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But I mean, VCU, good free throw shooting team, good shooting team in general. They rebound the ball. They take care of the ball very well. BYU is, like you said, high variance team. They are all offense. Defense is an afterthought. They've got 2 pretty good guards. I consider Saunders a guard. I think he's technically listed as a forward, but if you're not a back to the bucket guy in today's basketball, you're a guard. But Saunders, good guy. I don't know how to say his name. It looks like Diminen, but who knows? He's a very good point guard. I would love to have him on any team I had. I think the way VCU plays defense and how Rochi's got them playing, and they really ran through the Atlantic 10. They've got wins over tournament teams like Colorado State and John Blake on the other one, but both teams that are seeded how decent ways higher than them, and they earned wins over them in the preseason. Where BYU is really kind of struggled at the beginning of the year trying to figure stuff out, and then you see them go up and down. But teams they struggled with at the end of the year when they were playing their best. I mean, Houston, everybody's gonna struggle with them, but not everybody is getting blown out by them every time. And I think that's a defensive oriented team. You've got Arizona who beat them, but does offense extremely well. So I don't think BYU is going to be the one to dominate at any level here. So because VCU does something so well on defense, I think that's where all the value is. Plus, slower games lead to closer ones, and that's what we want here.
And we're taking the 3 points officially. That's the official pick that'll be graded. And we talk about this a lot, right? The model is not infallible. It is not perfect. It is just kind of how I've built it to try to see things and make things seem logical in terms of how a game plays out to the best of my abilities. And so in a situation like this, we just look at it and we say, yeah, the model's not really pointing us in one direction. The model says the market's kind of seeing it the same way, but that's when we start thinking, well, what else do we know on top of that? And that's where we talk about the model being only a tool. It's not necessarily the end all be all, because you still have to be comfortable with your bet, but it can point us in the right direction, or it can, in this case, point us to no direction and us still say we think something makes sense, independent of if the model is saying it's not seeing it. A couple of reasons why the model's maybe not seeing it that I think are really interesting. Number one, I gave BYU half home court. Is that accurate? Is that right? No, it's not right. It wouldn't be 50%. It's some other percent. The question is, what percent is that? And I don't have the answer to that, right? Is it a 5%, 20%, 40%? So there's a little bit of that. Maybe if I was too aggressive, maybe the model would only have BYU winning by an average of 2 or by 1.5 or something like that. And then on top of that, like you said, there's the style part of this. And that's where we have to really consider with college basketball. We don't really have to do that much with baseball, right? Coming up that we'll be talking about soon, because baseball is an individual sport masquerading as a team sport. But in basketball, it just doesn't work that way, unfortunately. And so we're going to take the 3 officially. Jake, we like the money line as well. How are you going about splitting your wager right now? And then if the number gets higher or lower, does that change your strategy at all at different key or key, as much as they can be key numbers?
I've got a full unit on the money line. I'm also playing the spread currently. The more points I get with the VCU, like I think every 2.5 points, I would add another unit is the way I would do this. So I don't want to be overly, since I'm on the money line. If I wasn't on the money line, I'd play that a little different. But since I'm already on the money line, I don't want to be overly invested and then be wrong and then my weekend shot. I'm going to be. This is one of the more heavily invested games I'll be in with, and I like VCU here.
So VCU are not getting 3. Hypothetically, someone watches this, I don't know, a few hours before tip. Let's say it's 2.5. Same strategy. We're still splitting between the 2.5. 2, same strategy.
Yeah, because like if I'm on the money line, like playing it with the points as it gets like is also something I tend to do for as a buffer.
Mhm.
Like if it was one I was more questionable on, say, like UC San Diego or something
Mhm.
like that, I, I would lessen how much I play on the money line and add that more to the spread, so that way I've got the buffer there. That's my strategy on how I'll do it. Not it works for me and the way I run my system. I'm not saying it's perfect or doesn't make me really sad when it doesn't when it goes real wrong.
Doesn't
But
always work, unfortunately.
no,
But I like to ask you these questions. I like to ask Cousin Jerry these questions as well, just to give people ideas and thoughts, and they can react to that and say they like it or they don't. That's totally your call. We're not saying this is how you have to do it. What we're saying that we can't disagree on is some of the basics of probability and how the price matters. There's just really no getting around things like that. But when you get past it, there's a lot of things that we can kind of. It's a lot of what works for you and what helps you sleep at night, what makes you more money. If it turns out to be a wash, a lot of these things turn out to be a wash and we stress over them when we shouldn't, right? What helps you sleep better at night? What helps you enjoy the game more? What helps you make it through the grind? Because sports betting can be a grind because it just never seems to end, which is both awesome and it can be a grind. And so things to keep in mind there. Of course, remember, if you're looking for more information about all these games, all sorts of information available over on Dub Club. So again, there's just kind of a deeper dive into that game specifically. You can look at some of the stuff there. Again, where the model says BYU might be more likely to win, but we're getting some good value on VCU, knowing that they could easily cover, they could easily push, and then that money line again, those plus odds. When you are supposed to win 41% again, maybe 42, 43, maybe we're off a little bit on that. We're close enough to 50-50 that the plus odds make sense, especially in a tournament game where anything can happen. And a BYU team that I think, for me personally, I'm kind of in I need to see it because I just feel like they've been disappointing in the tournament. A style of play hasn't necessarily paid off yet. So it doesn't mean they can't win. It just means I'm sure as heck wouldn't be laying minus 160 or something.
I mean, this is
Back
the same team Pope. Like it's not the same exact players, but it's the same style, same everything that Pope was doing, and Pope couldn't win a tournament game with BYU. But he's looking to a Kentucky. And so, like, what do you think enough changed with the new coach that allows BYU to do something that they have not yet to do?
Yeah. And so much of it's styles and matchups. And that's what we talk about. Just kind of it's an ideal matchup for BYU in that they're playing an East Coast team, near sea level in the mountains. That's about where it stops, though, unfortunately for them. This is not really the type of team that, is suited for them with how strong VCU is defensively. One other game we're going to talk about, and we kind of talked about this already on the bracket show if you watch it, but the part one was like 2 hours. It's like having a hard time even uploading it because it's just so long. We are recording all of this here kind of before the tournament gets going so that we've got kind of the picks out there. All the people on the Discord are all already aware of all these picks, but we are going to go ahead and go under in this Wofford Tennessee game. Average game is 130.5 points. We're going to go under 132.5. So only a small model edge, but a 2-point differential is at least, again, pointing us in the right direction to say, should this number be quite so high? Jake, we had kind of talked about this off show beforehand. Tennessee unders just feel like they make money, and I don't know if that's true, and I know I can easily figure this out by a quick Google search, but it's more fun for me to just think that they've been good to us. And so Tennessee unders are good. Also, Wofford plays about as slow as Tennessee, which is kind of hard to imagine. Wofford is better on offense and defense. That's kind of the only giddy up here. But while they're better on offense and defense, they're going up against a really good defense in Tennessee. Tennessee should score some points, of course, because Wofford's defense isn't anything to write home about. But if neither team's in any hurry and only one team's scoring points, this game might be really boring, which is what we're hoping for, going under 132.5. Jake, tell us more.
Look, I think the pace plays a big factor here where neither team wants to run, and I think that matters a lot with Tennessee. And when you look at that defensive number, and you consider a guy like Zakai Ziegler pressuring the ball that Wofford hasn't seen, because there's going to be a point in this game where it's going to tilt and you're going to think, oh no, this is cooked, because Tennessee will hit a few fast breaks. Lanier hit some threes. Meshack might even hit one. They're going to get real nervous. But then there's going to be the point in the game that every Tennessee game has where they just forget to score, but they don't allow you to score. And that I think those stretches are getting long for Wofford. I mean, especially with this being, I believe this is a game later in the day too. Like it's not. I think it's like a typical game.
7 p.m. Yeah, 6:50.
Yeah, like it's a typical game, so you're not going to have the early sleep sluggishness or something where you're playing an off weird time game. I just looking through Wofford and what they've done this year, there's nothing exciting. I mean, Duke got them by 50, and I mean, of course, it's at Duke, and Duke is a level above Tennessee, but defensively they're relatively the same. Duke hung 86, but Wofford only got to 35, so that would still put us right around this number. And that's with a much more high-powered Duke offense at home early in the year. So I think we're very well could see
with all those walk-ons.
Yeah,
shooting every time they could because they know it's their chance, right? Yeah. So I mean, they were just dribbling out the shot clock there at the last 5 minutes of that one, probably.
Yeah, and I mean, like Wofford didn't play another team that made the tournament, so they finished 6th in the SoCon. They're much worse off than. I mean, congratulations on getting here. You did it. You won the tournament. That's what makes absolutely outstanding about this is you could be good all year, and whether you hate it or not, it's they're here. And unfortunately for them, it's 15 seed is about right, and it's going to be unfortunate. But hopefully, it is a very boring game, so that way I can relax and not have to worry about anything.
Exactly. I did look it up because I was here. Tennessee 19 unders to 15 overs. That includes 3 conference tournaments games, which I feel like is probably pertinent to include considering this is the NCAA tournament. So I don't think it'd be right to exclude those. So 4 more unders and overs. So had that kind of idea, right? Wofford slightly more over than under. I think that's because people are aware of Wofford as a team that plays slow. They may not be quite aware of the fact that their offense is so much better than their defense. And so that's going to lead to a few more points because that differential, that's probably going to play out a little bit more in conference when the teams are more their talent level, right? Tennessee's just a whole different stratosphere. We've already talked about that, of course. Typically, we would say in a game like this that Tennessee's would dominate the pace because they are the more talented team. And that's what tends to happen with a discrepancy like this. They're not going to dominate the pace so much as both teams are going to be very happy doing the same thing. And so I always like these totals, even if they're small edges, according to the model, when we feel good about the pace, whether it's we kind of know the matchup, we've kind of seen it before, we kind of know how it tends to play out, or it's 2 fast teams, 2 slow teams. It kind of at least takes one variable mostly out of the equation. Doesn't mean it can't completely, but by taking it mostly out of the equation, it just kind of goes down to, like I said, one team's going to score, and I'm not sure how much the other one is. And so that's going to make it kind of hard to get into the low 130s. Under 132.5, the official pick, as we think it should be a little bit lower than that in what's probably a boring game, but one hopefully we can make some money on. Jake, of course, we have this here at the end of every show. Picks only, $1, first month, typically $10 a month. A lot of hockey picks over there. Baseball picks coming soon. So a lot of ways you could support the show. We really do appreciate those of you who are supporting the show. Already just by watching it, we thank you. And those of you with us on Dub Club, we thank you as well. Parting words, Jake, before we, kind of wrap up day 1 of the NCAA tournament and head towards Friday, day 2.
Yeah, I say test us, give us $1, see what it's about. You'll get hooked. You'll be on the honor roll package the next time around. And look, you got any questions you want, whatever you need more information, we're on all the social medias, or most social medias, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, whatever. You can comment here. We're more than happy to answer whatever questions you have about how this whole Dub Club thing works and do what we need to do to get you involved.
And I've kind of mentioned it too, and typically people don't reach out to me on these things, but we always talk about it. If you get in there, or if you've been in there before and things were a little confusing, you didn't quite understand, reach out to me and let me. If you reach out before, if you were with us before and you were confused, come back to me, get me your info, and I'll get you back in for another free month, and I'll make sure you understand what you're doing this time, right? That you can understand it better, because there's a lot of information. So depending on when you might have been with us, I might have done a better job now of aligning that information, right? We talk about people's strengths, minds, and statistics, and teaching and sports, and not necessarily in the presentation. I've got a lot of data. It's taken me a long time to figure out how I want to present that to people, right? So there's just so much happening that, like I said, if you are confused, or if you are confused, reach out, and we want to make it right. Because that's the bottom line. We want to make it right. And so again, we thank you for your support, and we hope that you check us out over there. Link in the show description. $1 $1 for picks only for the first month, or half off the honor roll, where you will just get so much great content, information, picks, etc. We're going to wrap up this episode here and move forward to Friday. But of course, as a reminder, you can eat your betting money, but please, especially in March Madness, because it can be tempting, do not bet your eating money.